Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fastener Fair. I'm Ken Ogle. It's my pleasure to bring you to this very important keynote session as we kick off this great event. A couple notes I want to tell you about really fast. If you have not registered yet for the welcome party, there still is time. It's just down the street at the GM Center. Easy walk to get to, should be a lot of fun. Also, I want to let you know about the evaluation forms. Now, I know at some events the evaluation forms end up as like a napkin or a placemat. Use these because this session is happening today simply because last year people filled out the forms and said we want educational content like this. So if you want more sessions like this, please remember to fill out the forms. So let's get to our keynote speaker. For that, I am pulling out the glasses, getting to that age. All right, let me tell you a little bit about Steve Blue. Steve Blue is an internationally recognized expert in transforming Rust Belt companies into high-tech powerhouses by showing companies how to triple and even quadruple growth. Steve promotes his methods of transformation through speaking engagements as a media contributor to Fox, Businessweek, Forbes, Inc., The Huffington Post, Industry Week, The Wall Street Journal, and more. His insights has led many to refer to him as the Steve Jobs of the Rust Belt and one of America's leading mid-market CEOs. Steve is president and CEO of Miller Ingenuity, an innovative company revolutionizing traditional safety solutions for railway workers. Its products protect assets, preserve the environment, and save lives. Steve also serves on a variety of boards in safety, banking, healthcare, and university business schools. He is the first CEO in residence for the College of Business at Winona State University. Through his podcast and his article series, Steve is dedicated to interviewing and promoting innovative CEOs who have successfully transformed their organizations. Steve is the best-selling author of 5 critically acclaimed books that target executives, leaders, entrepreneurs, and anyone seeking to learn the secrets of success in the corporate world. Steve's latest book, Metamorphosis, From Rust Belt to High-Tech in a 21st Century World, is a detailed blueprint for CEOs, senior leaders, to transform their businesses from Rust Belt companies with small margins into high-tech companies, high-tech leaders with superior profits. Steve's 7 values of ingenuity is the preeminent system to achieve exponential growth in a business. His proven formula of innovational potential offers a roadmap for companies to ignite their creativity and innovation capacity. Steve holds a bachelor's degree from the State University of New York and an MBA from Regis University. Please join me in welcoming Steve Blue.
Okay, let's get this party started. Everybody high five your neighbor. Come on, come on. High five your neighbor. Tell him you're awesome. You're awesome. Come on, come on. Everybody stand up. Come on, come on. Up, 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 up. It's 9 o'clock, for God's sake. You got a trade show to attend. You got things to do today. You got business to conduct. You just can't be sitting around a conference room waiting for when you can get out. Everybody high five. Come on, everybody high five each other. I want to make sure everybody got everybody. It's really important. Really, really important. All right, you can sit down now. Okay, imagine this. Who's your favorite football team? Super Bowl team?
Patriots.
Well, I would, yeah, okay. Anybody else?
Is there any other team?
Probably not. I want to get out of Detroit alive. So you're watching the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and it's coming down to the last play. They're losing. Sorry, they don't do this much, but they are losing. They're behind. They've got one desperate play left. They're 67 yards out, and only one play left. If they win it, it's because the play was good and it was right on. If they lose it, it wasn't. What's that play called? Hail Mary. Hail Mary. Okay, so imagine this. Quarterback steps up the line of scrimmage. He goes, hut 1, hut 2, hut 3, steps back, looking for his guy, looking for his guy. Defenders all around him, forces him out of the pocket, looking for his guy, and phew, He lets it rip. What happened? Went down the other end. Maybe? What happened? I should never do this in a big football town. There's too many variables that I can't control. Well, the NFL has studied Hail Mary passes for years, and they will tell you that the likelihood of a Hail Mary pass being successful is only 2.5%. So therefore, the likelihood of it being a failure, how good are we at math? 97.5%. So did the Patriots walk into the game that day hoping it would come down to one last desperate play? They walk in that game and say, you know what? I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to get right on the edge, and it's going to come right down to that last play that has a 97.5% chance of failure. Of course they don't. But Rust Belt CEOs do that every day. Fastener CEOs do that every day. Every day, they are hoping desperately that a Hail Mary pass is going to save their ass. Pardon my French. How do I know this? Well, just look around. The Chinese and the Taiwanese have most of the market share in the United States. And that's up 18% from just a couple of years ago. The deficit with the Chinese and the United States is $375 billion. There are 60,000 factories in the United States that have gone belly up in the last 10 years. And it isn't getting better, it's getting worse. This could happen to you. Now, I'm just like you. I'm a Rust Belt guy. I'm a low technology guy. I'm a commodity guy, or at least I used to be. And I know what you go through, and I know what your difficulty is every single day. It's rising costs, it's lowering prices, it's increasing competition. Did I miss anything? Did I get anything wrong out of that? So I'm just like you. And the day I realized that was the night I had a heart attack. Woke up in the middle of the night, sweating profusely, big time pains in my chest. I thought I was gonna die. After an expensive emergency room visit, I found out I wasn't having a heart attack, I was having a panic attack. That's the day that I realized if I didn't do something really, really radical and really, really different with my business, I wouldn't have a business in 10 years. And you could do the same thing. Let me show you how. Just to give you an example of that's the cover of my book, by the way, our metamorphosis at the company that I run, Miller Ingenuity, this is what we used to have for products. Look a lot like, which I get, I've got all kinds of fasteners on this thing here. This thing up here, I got all kinds of fasteners, and here, and then I have a whole, I could have showed you one picture after another of low technology, commoditized businesses, metal bending, plastic injection molding, and that's what we did. And every year it was getting worse. Every year more competition was coming in, and every year our costs were going up and our prices were going down. Now, I could have decided to just hope I can coast to retirement before something bad happened. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist. You can look at your business and you can run out your margins, look at what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years to costs and to prices, and then forecast that out over the next 10 years. You can figure out what's going to happen. The question is, do you want to? And this is what we went to. These are all very high technology products. This is one of the most sophisticated safety systems in the whole world. These things have everything you can imagine in a high technology product. Accelerometers, radars, lasers, motherboards, communication devices, you name it, and this product has it. And that's what we morphed into in about 3 or 4 years. And you could do the same. Here's the process. I'll unpack this one piece at a time. You start off with transforming the organization from what it is today to what it needs to be tomorrow to live in the high-tech world. Then you ignite innovation. I'll talk extensively about that. And then the last thing you would do is you disrupt the market. This one happens to be my personal favorite because it's probably the most fun. Now, how many of you have boards of directors? most of you, before you start down the transformation phase, you want to be sure that you clue the board in. And why would that be? It's not going to be an easy transformation. It's going to be expensive. It's going to take time. It's going to shake up the organization. The board's going to get complaints from people about, you wouldn't believe what that guy did. Blue, he's trying to destroy the company. You've got to intervene with that because it will represent change. You can't make this kind of a transformation from low to high technology without shaking the whole place up. And you better let your board know. And they also have to understand that the world that you're going to enter into is different than the world you're in. World you're in now, you cut a tool, you get a purchase order, you cut a tool, you book and bill inside of, I don't know, it could be a couple of months. In the high-tech world, from idea creation to actually commercializing a product is a couple of years, usually. So if you got a board that's anal retentive and always looking for the quick turn, you have to convince them that that's not going to be the world you're entering into. Now, how do you do that? I'll just give you a couple of clues. It's what I call the 3 C's of strategic and critical communication. You have to be clear, you have to be concise, and you have to be compelling with your board. No corporate bullshit speak. You can't talk about, well, you know, we think that possibly this might be at some point in time in the future, it'll be sub-optimized, and you have to say, if we don't do this, we are going to be out of business. And here's about when that's going to happen. And you have to have compelling evidence as to why you believe that is true and when you think it's going to happen. Because boards don't like their CEOs to give them bad news. You ever give a board some bad news? Ever give your boss some bad news? Oh, come on, you've never given your boss some bad news? Did they say, thank you very much for the bad news, may I have another, sir? No, boards don't like bad news, but they want their CEOs to tell them that everything is fine and everything is always and ever going to be fine. So this is a really hard conversation. And you can't just have it once. You have to keep having it. You have to keep reminding them, remember when I said it's going to take longer? Remember when I said it's going to take more money? Remember when I said it's going to be a little riskier? What you don't want to do is you don't want to go to the board and say, you know, I got this really wild idea to transform the company. It's going to cost a shitload of money and involve a lot of risk, and it's going to take forever. I wouldn't quite go there. Just a couple of highlights here on the first part of the process, which is transforming the organization. You have an organization, I had an organization, anybody in commoditized products have an organizations that employees generally have low skill. Oh, sure, you'll have a few CNC machine operators and advanced operations that have higher skill, but generally you have people that just sort of boop, 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 boop. Am I right? Okay, and I'm not knocking them, by the way. That is what it is. Generally, it's low skill. You have to move that to high skill. That's what you're going to need to survive and prosper in the high-tech world. Generally, in Rust Belt companies, creativity is low. We don't need creativity. All right, maybe a little purchasing creativity, maybe a little accounting creativity, but we don't need innovation-type creativity because we just keep making the donuts. We keep making the donuts. And we've made the donuts the same way we've always made them, and we're always going to keep making them the same way, damn it, so don't tell me I need to be creative. Again, I'm not knocking it, but in the high-tech world, you have to train and teach people how to be creative, and I'll tell you how to do that. In the low-tech world, there's generally low commitment. They come in, they punch the clock, they do what you tell them to, they don't do any more, and they leave. And again, I'm not knocking that. That's the nature of the beast. They're not asked to do anymore, so therefore they don't. In the high-tech world, that's exactly the opposite. Now, the last thing I'll talk about, and then I want to show you something about, is you have to have, if you want to be a high-technology company, you have to have a culture, what I call a culture by design, not default. You have cultures in your businesses? It's okay, you can raise your hand if you do. Anybody not have a culture? Did you build that culture, design that culture, create that culture, or did somebody of the way it was intended to be? No, of course not. Every organization has a culture. Most of them are by default, not by design. And, in fact, most cultures don't even know what the hell they are. They think there's something else. I'll give you a great example. Airlines. Airlines are a perfect example. Almost every airline has a set of values that says we really love our customers and we really treat them like king. That's bullshit. That is just bullshit. And then when some flight attendant does something really stupid, the CEO immediately jumps to his defense. Why is that? Well, because the CEO believes his own bullshit. The CEO believes what I call bumper sticker values that look good on a boardroom wall and look good at an annual report, but don't really serve the organization. I say if you want to be a high technology company, you really have to have an organization by design and not by default. Anybody know what that is? Cirque du Soleil, right? Cirque du Soleil is a great example of a lot of things. It's a business case example, and but I like to use it as the example of a culture by design, not by default. These guys come to work every single day on the edge, intending to do better today than they did yesterday, right? They don't. You think these guys come to work and go, oh shit. Man, I can't wait to get the hell out of here. Or do you think they come to work and say, you know what? I know I'm supposed to catch you today when you come flying down that thing, but I don't feel like catching you today. I'm mad at the company, or I'm mad at my boss, or I'm mad, or I'm just mad. My spouse was mean to me this morning. No, they come to work every day on the edge intending to do better than they did before. And I tell CEOs all the time, when you are starting to create a culture by design, this is the model you want to have in your mind. Now, can it be exactly like that? First objection I get is, hey boy, you don't understand. This is manufacturing. People don't have fun here. No, energize, no fun, no, none of that, because we're manufacturing or we're fasteners or whatever, and we're a serious business, by God. We can't have fun. We can't have people engaged. To them, I say, whose fault is that? That it's not. So that's the model you have to have in mind when you set out to create a culture by design. Now, I'll just talk about a few of these. This is what I call 7 values of ingenuity. Because people ask me, okay, yeah, I got the mental model, the performers and all the clowns and all that kind of stuff, but exactly how do I go about that? There is a methodical process that you can use, that I've used time and again, to implement the kind of culture that you want in the organization. That all starts with values. What values do you want in the organization? You need values by design, not values by default. I'll just talk about a couple of them. And the first phase, which is called building leadership credibility, you have to make sure that every person in the organization has respect for every other person in the organization. Now, I didn't say they have to like each other. No organization has everybody that likes each other, but I say they have to respect each other. And I'll give you an example. When I first took over my company 20 years ago, the language that they used in the factory was, it'd make a sailor blush. It was horrible. The way they talked to each other was just, and I'm not talking hell, damn, I'm talking about the vilest of 4- and 6-letter words. Are there 6-letter words? And the first thing I said was, your respect for each other is rooted in your language. And if you talk to each other badly, you'll perform badly, you'll feel badly, and the whole experience of work is just awful. I said, from now on, anybody who swears, I said, from now on, it's a zero tolerance policy for filthy language. And I said, I'm not talking about hell, I'm not talking about damn. Zero policy for filthy language. I've been around a long time. I know I look like I'm a youngster, but I've been around a long time. And I knew I'd get tested on that within hours, and I did. And I fired the first guy an hour and a half later. The second guy, half hour after that. 4 more guys before the day was out. By the time the day was out, I'd wonder if I had a business left by the end of the week. But it made a statement to the organization, to people, that they understood that I was serious about you have to have respect for one another. And if they don't respect each other, and if they don't respect the leaders, what do? You get rid of the people that don't want to go along with the program. It's as simple as that. Integrity, you have to have integrity for sure. I mean, it's an oft-used word, but it's absolutely essential, because if people don't believe their leaders have integrity, then they won't either. They'll start fudging the numbers. they'll start, doing all kinds of manner of cooking the books because you did it, so it must be okay for them. You have to have integrity. Now, I'm going to talk just a minute about teamwork and skip to the end of this. Teamwork, you have teamwork in your organization? Who's got teamwork? That's bullshit. You think you have teamwork. You say you have teamwork. Teamwork. Everybody wants teamwork. It's on the board reports, on the annual reports, on the boardroom wall. Everybody wants teamwork. Everybody has to have teamwork, but few organizations actually have it. And why is that so? It's not because you don't want to be a team player, right? I know you do. It's because the organization stacks the decks against it. They say, I want you to behave like a team, but they assess your performance as an individual. I want you to perform as a team, but they pay you as an individual. They don't bind you together with the rest of the team in the compensation. They say they want you to act like a team, but they don't promote people based upon acting like a team. They promote people because they're the coolest or the smartest or whatever. And so organization policies generally are against teamwork. So they say they want teamwork, but they really don't. And I would encourage you, if you're a CEO or if you're in an organization, a leadership position, take a look at your organization policies. Now, personnel may not let you just blow away the whole compensation plan in one fell swoop. They kind of like their plans. But you could say, tell you what, if we want to bind people together as a team, let's have team incentives. Let's have those team incentives override the individual incentives. I don't know about you, maybe you might be different. No, I don't think you are. I don't know about you, but if money isn't number one to me, I'm not sure what number two is. Is it number one for you? Nobody cares about money in this room? Oh my God, I finally found an industry where money doesn't matter. Hit them where it hurts, hit them where they're most interested. Put it in the money side of it. Okay, so let's assume you've got the organization transformed and you're ready to ignite innovation. Well, first thing you got to do is you have to declare that we will become an innovative company. And when you say that, if you're the CEO or the senior leader, the first thing people will say is, that's bullshit. I'll wait them out. It'll go away. It's the policy du jour. So you have to be very, very clear on you're serious about this. And as the initiative moves forward, people who don't want to come along with the program, what has to happen to them? Out the door. Because otherwise they infect everybody else in the organization. Now, you need to give them time, you need to give them space, you need to give them coaching, you need to give them an opportunity, but you don't give them too much time because the Chinese or any offshore competition you have, they're not waiting around for you to get your act together, are they? So you have to give that a limited shelf life. Make it a priority. Make sure everyone understands that innovation is number one. And then you have to back it up with action, right? When it comes to the end of the month, as an example, and you're in danger of making a shipment, and people say, well, we're kind of thinking we could make this shipment, but you got this innovation thing, so maybe like we're supposed to be doing that. Most CEOs will say, make that shipment. And the first time they do that, that's the end of the whole initiative. So you have to make it a priority. Now, don't misunderstand me. You have to make your numbers. You have to make your budget. You have to be profitable, but you have to put innovation right up there with everything else. It's just as important as everything else you do. Otherwise, people won't pay any attention to it. You have to give people the time, what I call time, tools, and techniques. You have to give people the time to innovate. If you say to people, I want you to innovate, you have to be a little more specific than that, especially if they've never done it before. I want you to innovate. I want you to work on these problems. I want you to work with these resources. I want you to have these parameters, and I want you to have something back to me by X. But if you say to people, I want you to be thinking about things as opposed to making things, you can't say, I want you to think about things, but you still gotta make the donuts. That wouldn't work. So what I did, I hired I tell people, I expect you to spend 20% of your time innovating, thinking about things. But I know that if they have to make the donuts within that other 80% of the time, I know what's going to go first. So I hired enough people to create 20% more time for all my employees to innovate. So you have to give them the time for that.
Yes? Please repeat the objective.
Robots can't do things like humans can.
I love that commercial. You know, robots are going to take over the world. Robots are going to take over the world. Artificial intelligence, all that kind of stuff. Robots can't innovate. Robots can't be creative. Robots can't care. But the point of this is you can't say, okay, I want everybody to innovate, and then say, well, go figure it out. I mean, I'm the boss. I gave you the mandate. That's what, you know, big guys do. They give the mandate, and then you guys figure it out. You have to teach them tools and the techniques on how to innovate. Here's what I did. I hired the ex-chief creativity officer of the QVC network. You familiar with the QVC network? How stupid is that for a manufacturing guy to hire a shopping network guy to teach his people creativity? I didn't want a manufacturing solution. I wanted a creativity solution. And we brought him in, and he spent the better part of a year riding shotgun with us and teaching every single employee the principles of innovation and creativity. Every single employee. Innovation cannot be the job of the engineering department. Otherwise, nobody else will do it. So we trained every single employee on how to innovate. And then in the beginning, we had to be very specific with them. You're going to, from this time to this time, you're going to do that, work on this, I want this, and tell me when you're done. Fast forward to now, and our employees get together all by themselves, decide what they're going to work on, decide who they're going to work on it with, marshal their own resources, and implement their own solutions. All of that without a boss having to tell them anything about what they should do. All by themselves. And you wouldn't believe how many creative ideas come out of a process like that. But it gets better than that. A couple of months into this process, a group of employees came up to me and they said, you know, we like this creativity stuff, but we could be a whole lot better at it if you'd give us a place to do it. For that, they do it in the cafeteria, they do it on the factory floor, sometimes they still do, they do it all over the place. And they said, but if we could have a dedicated space in the middle of the factory that couldn't be used for production, could only be used for creativity, we could be a whole lot better. And I said, make sure I get this right. You want me to dedicate a part of the factory that I now make money in and make it off limits to making money in and make it only and exclusively a think tank? Is that what you're suggesting? Well, yeah, sort of. I said, I love it. So I spent $500,000 on this space that I call it a Google-like campus in the middle of a factory. Our employees call it the Creation Station. And a million little innovations and ideas have come out of this space, and a few really, really big ones. Now, people tell me all the time, oh, come on, $500,000 on a space? What a waste of money that is. I say, you know what? You wouldn't bat an eyelash about paying $500,000 for a CNC machine, would you? Well, but that's an income-producing asset. My argument is, so is my Creation Station. Only mine self-renews. It doesn't depreciate like that expensive CNC machine. We got so good at this, by the way, that first people in the community wanted to know how we do what we do, and we'd bring them inside our Creation Station, and then we actually created what we call the Ingenuity University. You've heard of Disney University, where they come in and teach you, everything they do and how they do it. We bring a dozen executives in every year, sometimes more, and train them in 2 or 3 days to do exactly what we do. Now, exactly what we do is more than I'm talking about today. It's right into processes and manufacturing operations. We're as precise and good as it gets. So we teach them kind of the whole process. Okay, so you got all that going. You got all kinds of ideas coming out, and now it's time to decide what kind of a product you want to design. Okay, great. You got all kinds of ideas of products to design that are high-tech, but which one would you choose? This is an overused term, and I'll call it niche marketing. In our case, we found some places where nobody was doing what needed to be done to satisfy the market. Nobody. And we didn't try to go head-to-head with big guys. We found just very small niche slice that had high margins and high potential. It was underserved, let's put it that way. I wouldn't say not served at all. You got to pick a place where you can win when you're designing a product. In my industry, the big guys are General Electric and Caterpillar. They own all electronics. They own everything high-tech in the rail industry. It'd be stupid and silly and more money than I have to go after those guys. I know I can't win there, so I picked a place where they didn't care about. Too small for them, but it was just fine for me. And then you have to find a patent position. I won't go into large detail on that, but there is a really cool way that you can see what patents are in the industry and flag out the weaknesses in those patents, and the weaknesses in those patents flag out where market opportunities are and how you can, places you can win. How to design it is a complicated question. If you're a fastener company, you don't have much in the way of margins, you're not going to go, and you want a high technology product, you've decided what you want to make and all that, you're not going to go out and hire a bunch of electrical engineers. You're not going to hire a bunch of communications engineers. You're not going to hire a bunch of systems engineers. One, you can't afford it. Number two, you couldn't attract them if you wanted to. What good double E in his mind is going to go to work for a company that makes fasteners? They go, what am I going to do? Well, I can't go there alone. I got to have help. And so you can't afford it. So what you end up doing is you end up hiring a really primo design firm. And that's probably going to be outside of the United States. That's what I did. There's some terrific product design companies outside of the United States that have everything that you need in one place: communications, architecture, firmware, software, sensors, accelerometers, and all that. And they cost about half per hour that United States firms do. That'll lead you to what's called a minimum viable product. In short, a minimum viable product is the cheapest thing you can make and the fastest possible time you can make it to get it out in the market quickly, to get customer feedback about what's wrong with it. You don't spend a whole ton of money in the beginning and then get it out there and the customer goes, I hate this. It's wrong. It's stupid. And then you've got to start at the drawing board. So in our case, this one here, this was just a traffic cone. This is a device that senses the approach of a train and warns the roadway workers. We just bought traffic cones. Cheapest thing we could find. Get it out there, get it iterated, get customer feedback. That led us to the next iteration here, which led us to the next iteration here, which led us to the iteration that we're currently in 2019. So it was about a 4-year process of getting the product right. But you don't want to spend a lot of money at the beginning. You want to have, it's called a minimum viable product. Now this is the best part. I love this part. Now's the time to disrupt the marketplace. You got your cool product, you got your organization in the right place, and now it's time to disrupt. But what you don't want to do is, I look at all these booths out here, and I look at your trade publications and all that, and I see the same stuff. I see all you guys doing everything the same way. I'm not being critical of it. In my industry, it was the same thing. In the rail industry, every supplier looks alike, every supplier advertises alike, every supplier sets up their trade show booth alike, they all look alike. And then you complain that you can't differentiate? So the first thing I want you to do is think weird. I want you to think unconventional. I want you to think about breaking the rules in your industry in marketing. Blow them to hell. The people aren't going to like you for that, I guarantee it. They're going to get mad about that. Well, tough. That's just too bad. That's where I want your head to be at. This is what we did, just to give you some idea. Here's what we looked like branding-wise in 2000. By 2013, we'd done a lot of rebranding of the company, because if you're going to become a high-tech supplier, you can't go to market in the same old marketing clothes, can you? In our case, we were Miller Felpax. People go, Felpax? They make dumb metal stuff. They couldn't possibly be a high-tech supplier. So we started changing our brand and repositioning our brand way back when, because that takes time for it to sink in so the market actually believes it. Because what do you do now in advertising? I know what you do. I haven't even seen your ad. You go, we are the best. We've been in business since 1937, and our founder started in his basement. Who gives a shit about that? Honestly, anymore? And this is what we look like now. Now, it's very important to establish yourself in creative ways as a high-tech supplier. Here's one of the things we did. What is innovation and why does it matter? Find out in today's episode. one of the biggest decisions you will ever make is whether you're going to invent or not. So make sure you take that decision very seriously. Just one of the things we did, we created a 13-week television series that we ended up putting out over all kinds of media exposure, but looks like a documentary. And it further exposes us and enhances our high technology image. And then when people see that, wow, nobody in my industry ever did anything like that before, and they probably never will. Now, in my industry, it's the same as yours, I bet. All very polite, this is how we do things. We're polite men, we're serious men. It's the way we've done things in this industry forever, and we're going to keep doing it forever. One of my competitors for my high-tech product has a serious fundamental flaw in his product. It doesn't work all the time. Sounds like a really bad thing for a safety device to not work all the time, but the world doesn't know it. So I publicly challenged him to a duel. Went all over the internet, took out trade pub ads, everywhere. I challenge you to a duel. Take my product, put it here, take your product, put it here, side by side, same conditions, same everything. Let's have the media there, because they'll want to cover it. So I dare you to come. If he comes, he loses, right? Because he'll be exposed. If he doesn't come, he loses because people think, why didn't he come? And that's something that's just never done. So I use that as an example to make sure you think out of I hate to use the phrase, think out of the box, do different things. Don't keep doing everything the same way your industry is doing them, because you'll end up the same way your industry is going to end up. And how many companies in the fastener industry have gone out of business in the last 10 years? Does anybody know? Pardon me? Yeah, right. That's right. It's not worth digging into it, is it? It's a lot. Now, here's what our trade show booth used to look like. These guys in red are my guys. Does this look like what you got out there? You get all these guys in a trade show booth and they stand there like this. Right? You know what I'm talking about. They're waiting. They don't want to see it. No. You don't know, customer. I'm not waiting for you. I'm waiting for my buddies. My golfing buddies. That's, after all, why we do trade shows, right? So we can go golf and we can go drink and we can bring our spouses and everybody's happy. And you could shoot a cannon through most trade shows and not hit a customer. Now, I haven't been through yours yet during peak hours, but I bet that's what happens. Is that what happens? Okay, so here's what we used to look like. Same thing. Wait for a customer to come in, right? Please, God, let a customer come in. Any customer. So I can get a business card and I can tell my boss, see, this was a good show. I heard a guy in the elevator this morning said, how's the show going? Really good. We had some nice conversations. Who gives a shit about that? What do you want out of a trade show? Sales. I don't care about conversations unless it led to a purchase order. And believe it or not, some trade shows prohibit you from taking a PO during the show. Do they do that in yours? Are you allowed to take a purchase order? Does anybody know? Here's what our booth looks like now. The whole place is jam-packed full of customers. Jam-packed full of customers. We sit them down in director's chairs. We give them an iPad and branded headphones and a nice cool drink, and then they see a video of what we want them to see on the iPad. And that lady on the left, that young lady on the left, Marnie, is our secret weapon. Everybody else wants to hire her when they see her because she comes to trade shows and she goes on the hunt for customers. She'll stand in front of the booth. She'll go, do you care about safety? Duh. Well, come on in. Let me show you something. And if there aren't people right in front of the booth, she'll go hunting for them. She'll just hunt them down like a heat-seeking missile. She'll walk all over that trade show until she brings back one customer right after another. And then the best thing is, so they're impressed with what they've seen. What you can't see on the image on the right is when they leave, we have, as you can see, I like cameras. When they leave the trade show booth, I got a guy there with a camera saying, what did you think about that Zone Guard product? And if he says it sucked, okay, we don't have to use that one. But invariably, the ones that'll step up to a camera will say, I loved it, it's great, exactly what I need. And then we use that in all of our marketing materials. In fact, one time we were in danger of losing a major order because it was stuck in legal at a passenger rail operator. And the day, it was time sensitive. We had about 4 days to get it out of legal, and legal wasn't budging. Well, it just so happens I had their CEO that morning on one of my videos saying, I can't wait to get this ZoneGuard product installed in my thing. And he wouldn't return our calls, so we sent him the video in a FedEx package overnight and said, just thought you might want to know that, next day he fixed it. So the power of video and the power of social media is just, I could never overstate it.
Looks like a very effective system. My guess is it would be cost effective because you're not having to do all the onboard electronics. Track worker safety is a critical issue, and this looks like a promising technology.
That's a whole lot better, one of my guys telling you what you ought to do with this product and why you ought to like it, wouldn't you think? Testimonials, power of testimonials. I don't know if you do it in your industry or not. In the rail industry, it wasn't done much. It was done a little bit, but it wasn't done that effectively. So this is the last thing that I want to say, and it may be the most important. The last thing is always the most important, right? Wouldn't be last. Wasn't important. This is the most important thing I want to say. Now, you can be like a lot of people in the fastener industry, a lot of CEOs, a lot of leaders, and you can live in the town I call Denialville. You can think, you know what, it'll be okay. It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me. Might happen to my successor. God love him. I'll be retired by then. It's not going to happen. Something will happen. The government will fix it. Somebody will fix it. Things will kind of get better. You can live in that world if you want. Then you have a choice to make, and it's a really simple one. You can choose, very simple, between bankruptcy or prosperity. If you're living in Denialville as a CEO and you just hope things will turn out, you've chosen bankruptcy by default. But you can make a better choice, a tougher choice, but for sure a better choice. You can choose to be bold. You can choose to transform your company. You can choose to swim against the tide. You can choose to unleash possibilities that you never thought were possible in your company, and you can guarantee your company's success for generations to come. It's your choice. But just remember this, your doomsday clock is ticking, and it's almost midnight.